What's up, people? True Engineer here once again, and today we are reviewing the book Why Men Hate Going to Church by David Murrow. Again, that's Why Men Hate Going to Church by David Murrow. Before I get into the review, there are two things I want to state to let you know. The author tailors this book to the female audience, the female congregation member. So that's one thing you should be aware of. And two, there are a lot of hard sayings because of that. However, the author, I think, does a very good job of making it clear that not everything that he says is gospel, that he is not a biblical scholar. He is simply a man who is very concerned with the things that he's observed in church. So with that being said, we'll get into the review. Personally, I really like the book. I thought it was one of those things where, for me, being a man, even though it wasn't written towards me, it was directed at me, I still got some benefit in understanding why on Sunday morning men aren't there. He has all types of statistics and really clever analogies. For example, I'll share one with you here now. He talks about the thermostat as an example in regards to comfort, and that oftentimes men and women have different comfort levels. Say a man would like the thermostat set at 68 degrees. And the woman wants it set at 72. And oftentimes when the two find themselves in the same room with each other, they'll adjust it to their own setting. So the man comes in and it's set 72, he'll adjust it to 68. The woman comes in and it's at 68, she'll adjust it to 72. And it keeps going back and forth. And neither, at any point in time, very rarely do you have the two talk and discuss, hey, man saying, hey, I like 68, but, she says, oh, I like 72. Well, here's a compromise. 70 degrees. Because one of the things that oftentimes doesn't, or is happening now, or oftentimes has happened through the history of the church, is the loss of balance. We've done things to benefit one particular side, and that's not helpful. Balance is what's needed, and we need to reach some type of compromises in the things that we do, because balance is important. I'll just leave it at that. He talks about why the church is not in balance right now. He talks in many cases, sometimes it goes through cycles. He gives all types of these really interesting examples and just things you may not have been aware of. I'll share a couple here. He talks about oftentimes men walk into a church and immediately find out that they aren't needed. They may be wanted, but they're not needed. And men very rarely go to environments where they're only wanted and not needed. Another thing that was kind of interesting, or I found interesting, is it's not that men don't have a desire to be spiritual. It's just that oftentimes the way it's presented to them, it's not appealing. What am I talking about? I'll use a Bill Cosby example just to kind of illustrate my point. Oftentimes what happens is we present things, the way the church present things, they'll take something that the man really wants, ultimately desires. He wants to be closer to God, but they'll serve it to him on a trash can, okay? But then there's the thing that he doesn't want so much, but it's been, kind of jazzed up a bit, and it's really powerful presentation. He'll choose that. Even though he ultimately desires what the church has, the way it's being presented, he'll reject. So again, we have to be very conscious of how we present things. And again, the book has some tips. Talks about education, how men learn. It talks about a lot of little things. Again, it's a little bit light on the solutions part. Again, the book is titled Why Men Hate Going to Church. If you want to address or start putting in action, getting solutions, working towards getting more men to show up in your congregation, what I suggest is to read this book with a group of people. Don't read it in isolation. In your church, men and women together, work on this compromise thing so you can work through those hard sayings and really begin to start some dialogue and figuring out what you can do to make sure men are in your church on a Sunday morning. Because again, men desire God and they need God, and we need to make sure that they are getting God or meeting God. So that's my book review for today. True Engineer.